Hey guys, what's going on? It's your host Randall Parker Jr. You're tuned in to Roads to Liberty. Today is September 26, 2014. That is the edition of the episode to which you are watching, of which you are watching. So today's episode is kind of special in a few ways. It is on punk rock time, meaning it started about 5 minutes late. That's standard for most of the things I do, unless it's super professional corporate type stuff, then I try to get there like a half hour early because I don't trust myself to be on time. Anyway, the show is a vamp show because we're just kind of hyping up for the big show that Chuck has planned tonight. He's cracking open some deep stuff about censorship on the internet, about some kind of trolling, which all came from 4chan, relating to all the stuff that's going on right now. Celebrity Gate, this, that, and the third. He just dropped me the link, so it's all good. I'm kind of just like the warm-up guy. But this, you know what, this is a good video. If you're watching this and this is, on another time in the future, we're going to talk about a few things that are interesting. First of all, everybody felt like they closed the book on Scotland, okay, including myself. So we all kind of felt like, okay, that's kind of a bummer that Scotland didn't succeed in seceding from Great Britain. But and then there were some people kind of talking about whether it might have been some sort of case of voting fraud or corruption in that regard. But this is all, by the way, pulled from Adam Kokesh's latest episode. So after you watch Chuck's special on Liberty Geek tonight, or the same date, September 26th, go check out Adam Kokesh's last live episode from LA, which he talked about these two issues as well. So I'm kind of just piggybacking him because I was listening to the podcast and I'm still interested. I want to report my 2 cents on that. So anyway, Scotland, he had a guest on who was saying that essentially Scotland had a good case to be made for staying with Great Britain, insofar as there were some things that the people that would come to power likely in Scotland, had they seceded, wanted to do some crazy things. Supposedly there was a bill to assign one social worker to each child, as a proposal or something. And maybe I'm conflating something, but that's my understanding. So he had a case to be made against Scotland seceding. I think you could understand, like take the Free State Project, not that they're a secessionary movement, because they're not, to be clear. The group of 20 people that are intending to be moving to the New Hampshire state to create liberty, a climate of liberty. It isn't necessarily for secession's sake, but were they to, let's say, vote for a secession bill, I think a lot of us would just automatically be inclined to think, if you're liberty-minded, if you think that individual freedom and personal freedom is beneficial to collectivism, then you'll certainly see that a state seceding sounds like a great thing, because we're getting more decentralization in our control. We're getting to more individual level control, where we're more autonomous from higher authority. So people say stuff like, well, DC doesn't represent me, or those guys in Washington, whatever. And that's for a reason. That's because we as regular people are not living the life of politicians. We're not aware of what they're aware of. Even the people that believe in the myth of the state, or that the state, it's just a flawed instrument, or someone's playing it wrong. Even for those people, they are as aware. They're I'll say aware, but they're in a mindset that the stuff that's going on in Washington is something that they couldn't comprehend anyway. So when you look at something pragmatically and you're not tied to bias, whereas we are here in America, if you look at the Scotland situation from an outsider's perspective, as Adam was doing with his guest on his show today, Adam Kokesh, you'll see that, from an outsider's perspective, maybe the average Joe in Scotland would have been kind of worse off, because basically the squeeze that comes from the UK and some of the other the other parts of the UK, basically, not just Britain, but not the whole not just England rather, but the whole area there. All the parts that whatever it is, Wales, any which way. It's going to become a pressure vacuum to where if they were to secede, it's kind of like a lot of other nations kind of have an interest in kind of making them look silly. Or there's supposedly now they were also saying there's this idea that possibly there's a vacuum to pull them kind of into the EU, that the EU would be kind of pulling them in. So, and then there's this other idea that the EU could possibly be a good thing if it weren't, because there's a pressure within the EU to not be centralized, to not have a top-down control, but to be broken off into little quadrants or sections, which, again, sounds very counterintuitive to me to have, a rearrangement of the deck chairs of government, and to think that that could be somehow beneficial to people. But to a statist point of view, that's exactly what is intuitive. To a statist, it's not rearranging the deck chairs per se. It's more like tinkering with the near perfect contraption. So to the statist that thinks that the top-down course of monopoly is what we want or what we need, it's just about refining that machine. So I guess this goes back to our last week episode. If anybody was to watch it, who's watching this, you'll remember we were kind of trying to question whether you could vote your way to freedom. And, I think that it kind of gets expounded upon by this, in the sense that had Scotland, quote unquote, succeeded in seceding, and what would that look like? Would that be more free, either relatively or objectively speaking, for the average Scotlander, or would it be to some special interests' benefit and to other groups, major disadvantage? I think it would kind of have a shakedown effect like that, where some folks would get a positive uptick in their quality of living, and other folks would get pretty kind of kicked in the pants with that. We got about a few minutes. We actually about 15 minutes left, but I'm going to stop a few minutes early with this little quick show we're doing tonight. Usually it's an hour on Roads to Liberty that airs live. Our program airs live every Friday, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm a little confused because I was in 3 different time zones in the past month, and we don't have a studio right now. We don't have a set right now. It's just me with my little contraption. I do have some equipment which will flesh out the studio, but we are hitting the Scotland thing up. If I have Twitter open, let me just see if anybody's. I probably don't have a right damn Twitter logged in. I'll talk about Twitter in a second. It's Roads to Liberty on Twitter. We don't have a hashtag tonight. It's a short show, like I said, but we talked about Scotland a little bit. And I want to talk about this idea of voluntary socialism. Again, with Kokesh, I was listening to his podcast just earlier, and he had a gentleman he interviewed about basically kind of like a resource-based economy type of approach, kind of a, what is that called? I have no notes tonight, guys, but I have in my brain exactly what I want to do, so I'm just a little distracted, but the Peter Joseph resource economy type of zeitgeist movement type of thing is what I was looking for. He was interviewing a guy who actually did have his thoughts a little bit better figured out, I would say, than some. But then again, Adam's pretty, in my opinion, pretty good debater, in the sense that he knows how to position his opponent and make his opponent look better in a way. And Adam's approach to debating has changed, in my opinion. That's not something I was really planning on talking about too much today, but anybody who listens to Adam Kokesh, I think that if you might notice, this is a little side tangent. Since he got out of his recent prison stay, I think, he spent 2 months or something like that in solitary confinement. I think there might be something to that, in the sense that, not that that's a good thing for him, but in the sense that he might have realized something or had some sort of insight that made him want to act differently. He did write a book. His book, I did read, or no, I rather listened to the audio version of his book, which you can get at adamversustheman.com, and then somewhere on there you'll see something for freedom. You can just Google search Adam Kokesh Freedom Book. It's called Freedom. Everything he's doing now is called Freedom. Freedom Podcast, Freedom Book. I do respect the man for his commitment to his beliefs and his cause, and for his For his marketing prowess. I mean, he's got a little bit of a branding bug in him. He kind of likes to present things nice and kind of get his. What he's doing right now is he's raising money on a crowd fund to go on a tour all around the country, and for like $100, you could throw Adam Kokesh a hundo or $1,000, or I think there's a $500 level, and there's probably $10, $5, but the good ones start at $100. And most of those type of things, he'll come out to your location and do something like debate with you or debate with, somebody, or show up at your party or whatever, do a party. So any which way, little sidetrack there, but I want to plug him a little bit because I do appreciate what he's doing. The man's out of jail. He was facing over a decade of prison time for just loading a gun. And it was a peaceful, nonviolent protest in DC though. So kind of stupid move. But anyway, maybe not stupid, maybe heroic, depending on your perspective. But so we got 10 minutes left or something like that. I want to talk about this notion of voluntary socialism, because what Adam was arguing with this gentleman was that you could achieve this economy type of mechanism in society because what he was, because I might want to remember this later, he was talking about something, Adam's guest, I forget the gentleman's name, was talking about something to the effect where they're not trying to rid themselves of scarcity. They don't believe they can rid themselves of scarcity. What they believe is that there is artificial scarcity, which is what I want to write down, artificial scarcity, excuse me, in a capitalist model. I don't want to just reject it as a reflex. I want to, properly address it and give it consideration and then determine whether it fits or not. So his argument, the gentleman, was that we are kind of encouraging an artificial scarcity due to the profit motive. And this is very counter to my mental framework. So it does take a little bit of stretching and repositioning your perspective. But if you accept the fact that, if you accept that there's possibility, then you explore. But let's look at the possibility. Is there an instance where profit seeking creates an artificial scarcity? So what his model is saying, essentially, is where we can drill down, is that, for example, society has the technology to deliver an abundance of food or shelter type resources, basic necessities, right? So you can imagine these tall structures that are built that are extremely efficient, that have wind turbines built in, that have solar panels on them, that have plants growing on them, that have self-harvesting machines growing on them, and they operate on a self-sustaining mechanism, and they churn out, melons and apples and grapes and corn and yeast and bread and all whatever, right? So his kind of position is that in a free market, there would be no real way to encourage that to be built, right? So there's no profit motive in that because, well, I kind of say maybe there is a profit motive in it, but like it certainly wouldn't be cheap to build something like that, first of all. So I guess that's the practical side of me kicking in and like trying to address this as I go. But if you could say, all right, this thing can 3D print itself with nanorobots and with carbon pulled out of the air or something, like, let's say 30 or 100 years from now, the technology is there for someone. And this is where I think Adam took it, and I take the same approach to where you could say, well, if it becomes a $1 million ordeal to create a garden machine that just creates a never-ending supply of produce or something, not only would businesses make them and try to make a profit off them at first, but if they became so cheap, I mean, they would scale down. They would be something you could, buy for your backyard. I mean, I think that the essentially the socialist, because even this gentleman who is the guest, he didn't shy away from using the term socialism. He just wanted to be sure that he was not a state socialist. He was a market or not a market, a voluntary or anarchist socialist. And I appreciate the distinction, and I think it exists. But what I did find interesting was the notion of artificial scarcity. So, because I could see that, I could see, but at the same point in time, there's a funding problem, there's a maintenance problem. So if you were to have this societally funded, whether it's through voting or through, I mean, it's always coercion at the end of the day, but if you were to have this this project to build, a public garden system like that or whatever, who would maintain it when it broke? Who would protect it from people taking more than their fair share, going in there? Who would guard it? Who would pay for the guard? So there has to, like, the resource-based economist has to address there is a funding issue, and so that's a much riskier job. Socialism is very, to me, and maybe I'm just not as well versed. If someone wants to tweet me at Roads to Liberty or hit me up in the comments and give me some schooling or some links, I would appreciate it. But I haven't found a socialist explanation for, like, if you level out incentive, if you give everyone an pretty much very equal shot at things, and this is the true socialist, what they seek. The state socialist just wants really concentrated state power and is willing to sacrifice individual freedom to get it. It's not about morality at that point for the state socialist. It's about control. It's about nationalism. It's about collectivism at that point. So I'd like to hear from you guys, right? Instead of just me just having a dialogue. I don't mind doing it for a half hour. It's a lot easier than for an hour. But if you guys want to leave in the comments or tweet at me at Roads to Liberty, not the number 2, but just TO, Roads to Liberty on Twitter. You can just say what you think about anything that I said. I'm kind of new at this too. If you guys are catching me off like a random click on YouTube and you're just like, should I watch another one of these guys' videos or whatever? Some of them are better produced. Some of them I have interviews. Some of them I have roundtable discussions. Some of them I have all the notes in the world planned. And some of them I just like the free form because I don't know what this should be. I don't really know what I particularly want it to be. I just know that Mike Shanklin gave me a few minutes a week to talk to the internet in this format about topics and something else, but topics pertaining to liberty. And yeah, it's all good. But so the Scotland issue, right? If you guys wanted to leave some comments or leave your feedback, let me know. What do you think? Like, is it a definitely no-brainer that Scotland should have seceded? Would that have definitely resulted in liberty, or does that not matter? And I think that the larger topic there you might want to throw your brain around is, like, what is the real way to get to liberty? Right? So we're on the road to liberty, right? And what is the way to get onto the next part of the trip? Like, how do we know if we're going down the right street, if we have to make a turn? What's the fastest way to get there? What's the safest way to get there? What's the way that has the most attractive and safe pit stops to pull over and all that, right? And so is secession always the answer? I think that what I'm hearing and what I've heard today is giving me pause and giving me room to think that there might be it might be more complicated than I initially thought. And maybe if I get the ideas a little bit more fleshed out, and I probably will, I'll probably dwell on this some more and try to give you guys a better handling of this topic. And then with regards to, like, is there really a voluntary socialism? Can there be a society that's organized to where, okay, in defined socialism, we say where the workers control the means of production? Can that be a thing without force? I personally don't see exactly how that could be, because what Adam pointed out, not that I hadn't heard of this or thought of this before, but what he pointed out was that there's going to be a dispute, right? So at some point in your anarcho-socialism, so socialism, for definition, is where the workers control the means of production. And when you talk about property rights in a socialist society, there is no private property, there's personal property. So personal property is that which an individual is using. My toothbrush, my guitar, my bed. I'm using all this stuff. Private property is a capitalist construct to the socialist. To the socialist, I can't maintain or hold or have some land without using it myself for myself. I can't manipulate that land for profit or to extract efficiency from someone else. This is essentially what their case is. And I hate to dismiss it with my tone of voice, but it sounds counterintuitive to me. So with that all being said, appreciate you guys, anyone in my audience who's been checking out the videos. Would love some feedback, love some ideas for any guests or topics, or someone who'd love to come on a show. If you want to just recommend yourself, you want to debate me on something, you want to just bullshit about whatever, very cool. Listen, what we're going to do right now is we're going to be doing a, like, kind of a, I don't know how many people, but probably 3 or 4 people or 5 people from Voluntary Virtues Network, from and I'll try to throw the link up for you guys watching this now if you're just a random person on the internet, so you can click from here to this next thing that's going to be kind of connected in a way. We're talking about everything going on with regards to 4chan right now, Emma Watson, the leaks, picture leaks and whatnot, and what this says about censorship, because there's a group that is literally trying to petition the government, the United States government, for internet censorship due to Emma Watson's, not Emma Watson's thing, but due to 4chan's kind of abuse. And a lot of the stuff is turning out to be very confusing. So Chuck is going to make some sense of it, and we're all going to laugh about it and have a good time. So hopefully y'all can jump over to Liberty Geek and check out the episode from today. And we'll throw the link in the description below. And check us out next week. We don't have a guest planned yet, but I have some ideas in mind. So it'll be an awesome show, I promise you. All right, guys. See you soon.